We're set.
Set? I don't see yes. Hold on a second. Just waiting for him.
Okay.
You got the right link?
I think it's, there we go.
Okay.
Sounds working.
Can you hear it?
All right, I'd like to call the May 17th meeting to order. It is 6:30 p.m. To start the meeting, I need a motion to appoint Matt Crum as the clerk pro temp.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, I would ask that we postpone 5.0, the nightlight, until the June board meeting.
Any other changes to the agenda? A motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
All those in favor? I need a motion to approve the minutes of April 19th regular meeting, April 27th special meeting, and the budget hearing of May 10th, and the workshop of May 11th. We've been busy.
I'll move.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
The consent agenda is 3.1 through 4.1. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda as recommended by the superintendent.
I'll move. Second.
Any discussion on the treasurer's report, consideration of claims, transportation report, cafeteria report, intermunicipality agreement, or the policies on the second reading? That's just simple. All those in favor?
Aye.
We're skipping 5.0, so that brings us to the teacher presentation. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Helfer.
Okay.
Wiggle mouse.
Wiggle, wiggle.
Hold on. I'll sign you in.
So I'm going to talk tonight finally about the summer project, the 20 hours that I got last summer working on all kinds of things, curriculum. And I basically collected all kinds of slides. I assume Chris shared the presentation with you, maybe? No? Okay. So this is the proposal that I submitted exactly a year ago. Basically, I wanted to continue something that I started the year before when I was hired here, and that was to adapt the Regents chemistry curriculum to the New York State science learning standards. That was one of the two goals. And the second goal was I had started teaching my second year here, AP chemistry. And so that was, of course, a new course for me, and I really wanted to expand what I had been working on the very first year. So you might remember COVID 2020, we were teaching mostly online. So whatever I had developed then is very different when you teach the students online compared to when you teach to them in person. So whatever I developed that first summer for AP Chemistry, and even some things that I had already adapted for Regents Chemistry, it doesn't work when you see kids face to face. And so I really wanted to make some adjustments. So I followed mostly the New York State Science Learning Standards for Regents Chem, and for AP Chemistry, obviously the College Board required curriculum. So I had in mind basically when those NISLA standards are going to be implemented, and for me, for Regents Chem, the first examination is not until June 2026. So that would mean that the 25, 26 school year is when that first is going to be implemented. So it's kind of nice to see that timeline, which was last revised a year ago in April. I haven't heard of any other revisions since then. So I'm sure, but I do want to review it a little bit, that you're a little bit aware of the NISLIS standards in terms of science. They follow a three-dimensional direction. So because of science, you have a lot of things that the students can do. So that would be the experimentation in the lab, right? Involving carrying out your investigations and whatnot. Then the standards involve things that actually relate to content. So what are the specific concepts that they need to learn in order to be prepared? And then to make it three-dimensional, the third one is basically how do they think, what cross-cutting concepts connects everything together. So with those three things in mind, I went last summer, you actually sent me, so this is separate from the 20 hours, to Madison Oneida BOCES for 3 days to work with other teachers in the area. And we worked on looking at those standards, coming up with a document that followed all the different units. And it was really good because we got together and basically said, okay, what units do you teach? When do you teach them? Let's line them all up together. So there were teachers from Oneida, Madison, I think Canastota, and we aligned our curriculum. And the reason we have a couple of these units labeled in red is because the new standards are not emphasizing as much on a couple of topics within the Regents Chem. So I decided to start to de-emphasize those units. So coming from that workshop, I then went back to the classroom over the summer and thought, okay, how am I going to make those changes work for me and for my Regents Chem students? So a couple of things that I did, also that I further adapted after talking with some teachers in our building here, is to just revise the syllabus and basically plan according to those units, different marking periods, which units to teach when, which ones to emphasize more when it comes to that. So that was just the organization, first of all. So this document just kind of shows you the syllabus that I gave to my students at the beginning of the year. Another thing that I did, and I'm going to skip through a few of these slides, is I looked at all my labs and really looked at, okay, do they follow that revised curriculum where it's more student inquiry based. So you're seeing a gazillion labs here, everything now linked, because also with our one-to-one model, I wanted everything to be digital. So after we went through COVID and we learned working with the Chromebooks, I didn't really want to print out labs anymore. And so all my students know if we work on a lab, it's going to be in a digital format. So, so I adapted labs in that regard, making them digital, but also making them more fit under NISLIS. So all the labs that I'm doing, and there's a lot, are now available to students in that way. So one highlight that I want to emphasize is a particular lab that I did this year that I got the idea from attending a STANIS conference, Science Teacher Association of New York State. And that was as part of being a New York State master teacher, which I just finished that program. And there was a teacher there who came up with a PBL type lab. And I thought, this is great, I want to do this in my classroom. So that particular lab involved road salt. So I really got the students interested in, you know, what's the purpose of road salt? Do you know what the purpose of road salt is?
To melt the ice?
Yeah.
To melt the ice, yeah. So what does it do to the freezing temp of the water? Does it raise it, equalize it, lower it?
Lowers.
Lowers it.
It lowers it, yeah, right? It lowers the freezing temp. So then we basically set things up in the classroom, right? So we've got all these road trucks going out. I don't know if we want to stare at this GIF animation too long, but we got them to basically think about how would you test this, right? So I give them some suggestions and then they basically explore. So following that NISLIS guideline, where it's basically student directed. So that was a great project, and actually I haven't finished it yet, because it really connects the amount of salt that we are dumping in the Adirondacks, what effect it has on the ecosystem, so they're actually reading articles related to that, and then testing it themselves. You know, I remember that we actually had a snowstorm, there was snow outside, we bring that back in, they dump the salt in, watch how it lowers the freezing temp, and then take it from there. And where we're at, I'm just going to get away from that slide. Where we're at now is they have looked at the DEC site and looked at all the different water samples that we've taken across New York State and looking at the different levels of chloride and then seeing if there's a connection. When there's more roads, do we see more chloride and what could be the effect on the ecosystem? So we're linking the chemistry to the biology, basically. So that was a really neat PBL project. So that was one thing that I spent time on over the summer, which I further worked on during the year. Another thing that I've really worked on, I presented a couple of months ago at Atlas as part of the New York State Master Teacher Program, is revamping my labs, making them more math-based. So not just science-based, but also connecting it to the math curriculum. So there were several labs that I've revamped, but I'll highlight this particular lab that I really liked. Do you know what's happening in this GIF animation?
Is that ice?
It is ice.
Is it sucking all the air out of the?
Yeah, kind of, right? It's basically trying to keep the pressure the same, and the only way it can do that is by inflating the can. So that's a particular gas law, and there's a site, a FET site. They have all kinds of animations. And on that site, you basically can have students play with a container of gas. They can expand it, contract it, add heat, pump in more air particles, and then they take measurements. And to really bring in the math, we then connected using their Chromebooks to Google Sheets, and then they put all their data in, and then the whole idea behind it is, okay, well, what correlation do we see here, right? So a couple of years ago, this completely frightened me. Right? So, but really, in Google Sheets, you literally have a drop-down box, and you're looking at the data, and then you can say, okay, does it fit better linearly, or does it fit better, and I don't know if I can explain this, the power series? Is there a math teacher here? And then they look at the R² value, and I'm trying to basically connect it a little bit with their algebra curriculum in that sense. And since we've been doing this the whole year, they get less frightened by this, even though they're still like, whoa. So I then shared this lab that I didn't just adapt myself. I got the help from other New York State master teachers in various math departments from surrounding schools to basically get help with that. And then I shared what I created with the actual FET site, and that was kind of cool because other teachers basically pick up on the lab and then use it, which is really neat. So that's kind of the chemistry portion, fitting my curriculum more based on the NISLIS, but there's something that I didn't get to, and that's why I proposed for more time. What I had said I was hoping to get to, and I did not, is using more of a storyline approach to teach the chemistry curriculum, using a website called New Visions that I've used in the past for biology. And I started to look at that, and I haven't really evolved that further because, well, I've been busy with other things. that I just showed you. So that's something that I would like to look into for this summer. But what I have been able to do, still with respect to the science curriculum, is I've been using a lot of Pear Deck, which Chris and Mark have seen when they've observed me in my classroom, which really started again because of COVID. Using Pear Deck, and my students are very used to it now. I use it multiple times a week. They open up their Chromebook, they get a link, they go there, and then on their Chromebook, they will, for example, see a question. And this question might be, okay, I've got here a test tube. There's some carbon dioxide in there that's completely reacting with water. And what mass of acid might have been formed? And because they see this Pear Deck icon at the bottom, they're able to type their answers. And I can see those answers, and I can show it to them anonymously on the board. And then we go through, okay, could this be the correct answer? Could this be the correct answer? And I've really further evolved this whole Pear Deck thing, and I really still like it. It hasn't bored me yet. And then hopefully, you know, they get to the right answer, and then when they see each other's suggested response, they say, does this look right? They critique each other, but it's not direct. It's indirect because nobody knows who wrote what. And that's been really helpful. And what would the answer be? If we have this many grams of carbon dioxide and this many grams of water, how much acid could we form? What do you do with those two numbers?
That formula would suggest you add them.
You simply add them, right? Because we have to follow the law of conservation of matter. You can't just make up stuff, right? So that's basically
all the time.
You make up stuff all the time? I do too, I just, yeah. And then lastly, so I told you a lot about chemistry, because that's 2 sections of what I teach. The AP Chem portion, so that's the College Board stuff. I'll just share with you, I've been going back to that PhET site, and I've gone back to this device that I had, this spectrophotometer that you might have heard me talk about at one point. Yeah, the bane of my existence, but it's gone now. Replaced with a board like this in my room, which has been great. So I've definitely explored more labs for AP Chemistry, and yeah, and that's basically the end of it all. So, yeah. Any questions?
How do we join your science class?
Oh, you just walk on in. Does it look interesting?
It makes me feel like I've been out of school really long.
Are you working with the math teachers as well, with the math teachers you're working with?
So I would like to, and I've certainly mentioned before, you know, because I'm the math science coordinator, and I've certainly shared what I've done before. I would like to collaborate more. I feel like we're not working together enough. Like we're still kind of in our, I'm upstairs, they're mostly downstairs, and I feel like maybe there's room for more integration. So I haven't seen that as much as I would like. I think there's room for more collaboration. But what I do hear from the kids is that when I teach things like, you know, linear regression or whatnot, oh, we're doing that in Miss Lehman's room or Mr. Dare right now. I said, that's perfect. So I kind of am communicating that through the kids because I think they're in their particular curriculum, what is it, E-math that they're doing? And but I do listen to, okay, you haven't had that yet, maybe I shouldn't do this yet. So in that sense, I'm thinking about that. But we could do more, I think. Yeah.
Very early in your presentation, you used an acronym, NISLA, is that right?
NISLIS, yep.
What does that stand for?
New York State Science Learning Standards, NISLIS. It must be up here. Yeah, New York State Science Learning Standards, NISLIS, NYSLS. Yeah.
I guess the second question would be the soda can experiment.
Yeah.
Do you let them do it with a 55-gallon drum, or?
Oh, the soda can. So the soda can, I kind of demo it for them. Actually, the funny thing is that there's a YouTube video.
The ones in the 50s?
Yeah, possibly, but it involves an oil tanker. And they're basically discarding that oil tanker. They're cleaning it, so they're steam cleaning it, and the tanker's completely shut. And when it cools down, the whole tanker implodes. Why, you recognize?
I probably have seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen lots of these.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
college party?
So,
No, this is what my family watches for fun.
this one's easy,
There's
you
nothing wrong
know.
with it.
Always have an extra soda can at hand.
One comment unrelated to your presentation, just for the administrator, I have at least one kid in elementary school who asks me all the time when the science fair is coming back, so. just to give-
When the science fairs are coming back.
But for you, it looks
Yeah.
like you're continuing this in the summer curriculum this year.
Yeah.
And continuing to work on the AP class. Can you talk a little bit about what you'll do this year?
So what I'd like to do is the Regents chemistry. I was talking about the storylines. So a few years ago when I did 1 year of Regents bio, and I'd never taught Regents bio before, and it's so much easier to then jump into something new because I had nothing. I had no curriculum, well, other than what you're required to teach. And then I went to the New Vision and followed their whole storyline unit setup. Now, chemistry has the same storyline or similar storyline idea, but because I've been teaching chemistry, it's just, you're then not willing as a teacher, okay, I'm going to throw all this out, the baby with the bathwater, and start over. So do I want to really do completely new and go all storyline, or do I want to pick, okay, I like this, I'll implement this in my curriculum, or this I like and I'll implement that. So, but I'm less willing to throw out what I have. So it's what do I want, what do I insert? So that's one thing. I'm still working on the AP Chem. This is now the second year that I've taught it. I finally get what I'm teaching now, 2 years later. It's just hard, it's a difficult course. So I just want to go deeper into that. And hey, I like that science fair idea. Who knows? That might be something worth exploring. Who organized that before?
Elementary, Mr. Ellis.
Oh, well, maybe we could go into collaboration, right?
I would love to,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
I mean, really.
Yeah,
Because-
we tried a lot to get the middle school, high school involved, and it was just, it was hard for them. You know, they looked, a lot of the kids looked at it as, well, that was
Work.
the elementary thing.
Oh.
Kids did that. I did that when I was in elementary school.
Chris, did you
Yeah.
have
So we did
grandkids?
get some middle school, high school kids to participate, but they were like
Right.
science nuts. They were
Maybe
just
they
so
should
psyched to
partner.
be there.
Yeah.
Middle school, high school with elementary.
Oh,
Yeah.
that would be
Those
cool,
should be the
yeah.
partners.
Yeah, yeah.
With like a
Yeah.
bat, you gotta have a bat.
Oh.
Well, thank you very much.
Like
You're
shaving
very
Mr.
welcome.
Ellis's head, that
No.
kind of thing.
The Bills that
Dunk tank.
Dunk
Silly string.
Everybody all set with this presentation? We're going to move on to Mrs. Mark and Mrs. House, as they will be presenting their SEL summer curriculum.
I'm gonna lead us off too. So last year, around this time actually, maybe a little bit earlier, the SEL department, counselors, psychologists, myself, we're trying to figure out how we could build upon what our needs are for social emotional learning, particularly in elementary school, but we're thinking middle school as well too. And so the question came, so what do we have for the classroom teachers to teach social emotional learning? And we had second step at the time, but it was a kit that was purchased, the kits were purchased in 2007. They're pretty old, and the photos at that time were even 10 years old or so. So the teachers did have units. They used them for the most part. It wasn't necessarily said you have to do all the units by this date and all that, but most of the teachers were using them more so on an as-needed basis. So we recognized that teachers really needed some sort of systematic approach where we're all kind of speaking the same language and teaching the sort of same ideas and concepts as they go from K on up through. So we went, we put a team, we asked the team to come together, this summer, let's take a look at a bunch of different curriculum and different systems, different programs, and settle on one that best suits our needs. So what we did was that previous year we had nested into DESA, which is the Deborah Student Strength Assessment, and we used that data, we brought that data where it identified our students' social emotional needs to the summer meeting. So we kind of had that as a template, and then we started looking at the different programs. This CASEL, Collaborative Economic Social Emotional Learning, it's a group that looks at different programs and systems like PBS and RTI and TSS and different systems, second step, all these. So we used their data, and they rated all of the different programs as to what their strengths were and where they were. They had like 8 different categories and where their strengths were. So we kind of matched up what our DESA said with what they had, and then at the same time we wanted to look at like what do our teachers, what would they be comfortable with, what's going to work great for our school. And so we looked at a few different programs. We settled on, believe it or not, we settled on Second Step again. So they had a newer, updated version. They had an online version, much like, we put up on a big board here. That's what we ended up settling on. So Second Step Emotional Learning for students it's actually K through 8. It's currently used K through 5 right now, although I think the middle school did use it for a couple different things this year, specific things, anti-bullying or something. It's a classroom-based program designed to increase students' school success and decrease problem behaviors by promoting social emotional competence and self-regulation. Second Step was chosen due to being a research-based program with data demonstrating significant improvements in social emotional competence and behavior. One of the other things we did like about it too is it does match really well with some of the programs and things that we're currently doing. And trauma-informed schools, restorative justice, restorative practices, all recommended. Second Step is a piece to what they do. So with those strong recommendations, settle that Second Step.
And the program is also aligned with ASCA, which is the American School Counselor Association standards. So that's what the school counselors use to kind of plan our programming here at the school. So I actually have been using some of the Second Step material that we purchased for small group counseling sessions and for curriculum. That's been helping me guide what they've been doing in the classroom and kind of supplementing that in the small group sessions that I'm meeting with kids. We did send out a Google form survey to teachers in the beginning of the year to see if they would prefer to use a hard copy program in the classroom or the updated digital version that just came out. So they did have 2 choices that they could choose from, and then they were encouraged to present the lessons weekly throughout the year in the classrooms. One way I collaborated with the teachers in regards to the program is one program that stems off of the Second Step curriculum is called the Child Protection Unit. The past, I think, 10 years, our district has been using the Child Lures program as our safety program. And our team, through discussion, kind of felt that it was a little bit outdated. Unfortunately, the program hadn't been updated in probably 7 or 8 years. So we looked at this program that the Second Step company also offered, and I piloted it this year. I went into all the classrooms and did the program with K through 5. I'll be going into pre-K classrooms next month. The premise of the program is teaching kids how to stay safe. These are like the 3 goal areas: recognizing, reporting, and refusing. So this stems from teaching safety skills, and so far the teachers and I believe the students were really receptive to the language. I think it's a good realistic view of some of the challenges that kids are facing here at school and in the world when it comes to safety, and how to respond to unsafe situations and how to recognize unsafe situations and respond appropriately. So the Child Protection Unit is one area that we've been implementing and piloting, and so far we've had some pretty good feedback.
So a little snapshot of what Second Step looks like in the classroom and in 3rd grade in particular. The digital program is really engaging for children. It's organized in a way where the kids can interact with the lessons and the teacher and each other. There are 4 units and 5 lessons in each unit. The units are growth mindset and goal setting, emotion management, empathy and kindness, and problem solving. And then each lesson has 4 parts. There's a brain builder activity, which is short and fun. It's a video. It's a fun way to practice memory and focus and recall. And then there's a section called Getting Started, which is when the teacher introduces the new skill and engages prior knowledge. There's a practice section, which is when we use typical scenarios for 3rd graders that they encounter throughout their school day, and we talk through strategies using language such as what's happening in the story, how do you think that student feels, what could they do to solve this problem, and then finally a check-in at the end where it's a small group or partner led a student dialogue. They're given a scenario, they talk it through, and they share their thinking with the whole group. So as a teacher, I really like this program for many reasons, but in particular, I like that there's a program support available. They call it techniques and tips and tools to get the most out of the program, so it's a really good resource. There are parent lesson summaries and prompts to reinforce the lessons at home. And most importantly, the transference that I see from the lessons out on the playground and in the cafeteria and in the hallway. The kids are using the same language and can reflect on the strategies we've learned, and to see that transference is the most important piece. So thank you to the board for supporting the program and the administration.
Yeah.
I was going to say too, early on in the year in the fall, we had, there were a couple of bullying incidents that took place in the upper middle elementary grades. And so we, as a committee, got together with Heather and the principal and decided that we would take, there's an anti-bullying unit. I don't think it's called anti-bullying.
It's problem solving.
Problem solving, but it has bullying embedded in it. So we all decided to take it. It wasn't, we weren't supposed to teach it until like February.
Correct.
So we all took it out and had all the teachers in the elementary school teach it. And it was like
Earlier.
October.
So it's kind of a fluid program?
Yeah, yeah.
And do you think that made a difference? Did you see that made a difference?
I think it was a piece of a few things, for sure, yeah.
But the fact that you're seeing them use it.
Yeah, I'm hearing them use the language.
Yeah.
So when we work through problems and talk about kindness and empathy and just problem solving in general, they're using the same kinds of strategies and language that the program offers. And then when Mrs. Hope comes in and is also teaching lessons, that same language is being reinforced.
And to kind of add to what Renee was saying, with the child protection unit curriculum, there are home pieces that are sent home after each lesson. And I have had great responses from family members calling me and thanking me for the information, because we all know that these discussions can be very difficult, sensitive discussions like this, and sometimes having the wording and language that is being presented in this classroom is helpful for the parents to, address with their children at home. So that piece has been very helpful as well.
Does that go home after instead of before for a reason?
So there's a parent letter that goes home before describing the program.
Okay.
And then after each lesson, so after I go into the lesson that night, another letter goes home describing what was discussed that day during the lesson. So there could be
So
follow-up.
there's plenty of open communication.
Yes, great.
Kevin, early on you said that the program was designed for K through 8, but then I heard pre-K. Can you use the program for pre-K?
There's a separate pre-K unit that Ms. Briggs does have for her classroom as well. Yep, pre-K. So it's not it's like second step is K through 8, and then there's, I think it's not called second step, it's the same company, just like this has,
Some kind of early learning
yeah,
or
early learning or
something.
something. But we purchased that kit for her as well too.
There's so little time in pre-K, it's going to be hard to fit
Yeah.
in there.
Well, I think, like with pre-K, from what I'm remembering when we looked at the pre-K part, there's a lot of like play-based stuff, which they really should be doing anyway. So it went well with it. And the teachers needed something. I mean, they have to teach social studies, science, reading, writing, math, and then to put on top of it SEL, you're not trained for it. You don't have any manuals or books or anything. Like, So everyone was kind of doing their own kind of thing based off of what was going on in the classroom. We really needed to just systematize the whole thing and give them the resources that they could pull out and use from on a day-to-day or weekly basis.
Well, then it helps transfer from grade to grade, I'm sure.
Yeah,
The common language is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
And then to
that's
that,
keys.
do they offer, or I don't even know if it's really needed, but is there a 9 through 12 piece? How does it transfer?
Right. I don't know the answer to that. We can look at that. I want to say there was, but I'm not. We didn't
I'm
purchase
just
it, so,
curious.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, one of the pieces with the upper grades that I worked with Mark on this past year is like, okay, so if we were gonna bring it to middle school, like, like when, where, like,
Yeah,
7th grade, where would it fit in? You know, like, maybe health, you know, maybe, like, if next year they're talking about doing a longer homeroom next year. Like
Health,
maybe-
leadership, and then possibly longer homeroom next year.
Yeah, so we're just, this year, we're kind of just trying to find a home for it.
Yeah.
You know, so hopefully we'll have that in place for them for next year.
Great stuff, thank you.
Thank you for the
Thank
time. And also, you guys all love our meetings. You are welcome to go home if you'd like.
I'm gonna make them go.
More than welcome to stay,
They have to go. Thank
but you
you.
won't take offense if you decide to go
Thank you,
home.
Sherry.
Yes.
This was the quickest ever. Don't you remember the last couple of times?
Oh, yeah.
Why was that?
We had a short meeting, we still have a little bit left. but-
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good
Thank you
night.
all. All right. That brings us to general public participation. Since the room just emptied out, we're assuming we don't have anything going on in the space here, and there's nothing online. So anybody who is watching, please feel free to enter your comments, and we'll get you next. That brings us to personnel. I need a motion to approve the administrator and confidential salaries for 2022-2023 school year as recommended by the superintendent.
Second.
Discussion would be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to approve the appointment of Shannon Newkirk as probationary office assistant 1, effective May 5th, as recommended by the elementary principal and superintendent.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to approve the recommendation of the committees on special education and preschool special education.
Second.
Discussion would be in executive session. Bless you. All those in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to accept the mentioned non-resident students for 2022-2023 school year as recommended by the superintendent.
Second.
Any discussion? Is this about the same number as we typically have?
Roughly, it might be a few students less.
Fewer.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, we're on to discussion for policies. I got 0020, update on the DASA coordinators and revised wording on page 12. I'm going to turn it over to Travis.
I'm gonna turn it over to Bill.
Oh, that's even better.
So in this policy, we just have to amend our district coordinator. We have to include Heather Thomas.
Which we did in July, it just
Yeah.
didn't reflect the
Didn't reflect.
policy manual.
Okay.
And then there's just a slight wording change.
And can you explain why the wording changed? Shouldn't shall? What was the, don't look at me like that.
In shalls, yes.
There's a big difference between the two words in policy.
So you are not required to have DASA training every year.
Right.
However, as a district, we believe that it's important to have the
Okay.
DASA training every year.
Okay.
But if it weren't,
Now I
But if it
understand.
weren't to happen, for
Right.
some reason,
it should.
Right,
covers us.
right. 'Cause shall is equal to must.
Correct.
Yeah. Should, shall, must, may.
Thank you. Got it.
that brings us to a motion to approve the summer curriculum development projects as recommended by the Director of PPS, Director of Technology, the principals, and the superintendent, all included in this.
I'll move.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
So I remember with the strategic plan, one of the big talking points, at least in the subgroup I was on, was equity of professional development. So what is like the plan in place to make sure that these summer curriculum projects are equitable for all teachers?
So the process is, the application is put out to all faculty,
Mhm.
and then it's up to them whether they want to take on a project.
Yeah.
So we offer it to all,
Mhm.
and based on personal circumstances, they might have they might be working summer school or have summer employment elsewhere, or their schedule just doesn't allow them to do a project. So,
I gotcha.
but everybody has access to the same
I gotcha.
opportunities.
You're not having to turn projects down.
We're not turning projects down, however, we scale back some hours if we have
Okay.
to, because contractual language limits the amount of money that is earmarked for professional
Right.
summer projects. So sometimes we do have to scale down to give everybody
Okay.
the opportunity to have at least what they put in for, but it
Yeah.
might not be, they might put in for 20 hours and we give them 15.
I'm trying to remember down here at the bottom, the total, is that partly related to a contractual obligation?
Yes.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to accept the following donations with sincere appreciation and to increase the budget by this amount from St. Thomas Episcopal Church and from the Emerald Foundation.
Hold up. Do you want to change those so we don't have to
Yeah.
amend it?
Yeah, there's just one point of clarification. I think when this got scanned in, there's actually two separate forms from the Emerald Foundation. When it got scanned in, it was attached to the St. Thomas one, so there was actually a $1,516.59 donation from Emerald Foundation for the 5th grade field trip, and then the additional 800, so.
So they're both from the Emerald Foundation?
No.
No.
No, so the
Oh, I just see. Okay, so there's three.
Yeah,
There's three.
there's three, but the total for the Emerald Foundation is $2,316.59.
Oh, okay.
They were just scanned in together.
Okay, so the three.
And leave as amended? Can I do that?
No, it was never amended because there was never a second. So Michelle just needs to read over the motion with the correct numbers.
I need a motion to accept the monetary donations for the following, with sincere appreciation and increase the budget for this amount. So I got St. Thomas for $1,500, got Emerald Foundation for $1,516.59, and I have Emerald Foundation for $800.
I'll move.
Discussion?
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have a senior class trip. What exciting news. I have a motion to approve the class of 2022 senior trip to Seabreeze on Friday, June 17th, as recommended by the school secondary principal and superintendent upon meeting all the planning requirements of the administration. Please note that the board reserves the right to cancel the trip if circumstances should arise concerning safety of the students.
Second.
So the week before graduation. All those in favor? Aye. Administrators reports, do we have questions, comments on that?
Heather's not here, but I love the fact that Bridges is coming in to talk to 4th and 5th grade. I think that's great. It's good timing.
Mhm.
I had a note about Kevin, since Kevin is here. Oh, the collaborative and proactive solutions. Do you have data that you'll be able to track to tell if there is a
You're
difference
asking
in?
if Kevin has data?
I know, I know.
Careful what you wish for.
Well, I mean, DESA would be the
Okay.
universal kind of tracker for that.
Okay, because
But you
again,
could use behavioral, like, we've tracked, like, number of,
behavioral interventions.
yes,
essentially.
referrals to the
Okay.
office, or
That's-
write-offs, all
I
those.
assumed that you had that, but I just wanted, yeah, because again, it sounds great,
Yeah,
but if you have to justify it, whether it be to us or to parents or to
Right.
other teachers, like, it's really nice to have that
yeah.
data.
Well, yes, absolutely. So there's if we're gonna roll this out, which it looks like we're going to, it's going to be on a kind of a pilot kind of year, a small group, core team, we call it, invite, and then run it through the year with all sorts of coaching and support.
Yeah.
But then inviting teachers in to see what it looks like and see if the process works, and then bringing them in as we get better at it and more people want to add to it. The real, or one of the real good things with this program is that it fits perfectly with restorative practices, because restorative practices is really kind of at the back end of the problem. So there was a problem, how are you going to react to it? Okay, so you want to use a restorative practice that's going to help the students to learn that causes them to not do it again. So it does work its way around in the beginning, but it starts at the back end. This is the front end. Okay, you're working with students that have unsolved problems. You're not looking at behaviors and what they did wrong, which what you might do with restorative, but you're looking at it, a student has an unsolved problem, and helping them, working collaboratively with the student and the teacher to come up with a solution for that problem, so they won't have that problem anymore, so it doesn't create the behavior. So this is kind of the front end, and it fits perfectly. I think Bill even talked to someone from restorative.
I did, and in my consultation with Suzanne Peters, who will be our facilitator for restorative practices, I mentioned to her that we were investigating this program. She was very encouraged by that. And she echoed what Kevin just said, it mirrors really well with restorative practices.
Yeah, well, we're excited about it, because it's when the students are involved in the solution process of their own problem, they're way more apt to buy into and learn from it, and than having a unilateral decision on them. You weren't behaving, you didn't do this, so here's your consequence, good or bad or ugly, whatever it is. Like, they weren't involved in that original process, so they still have a problem.
Right.
You
treated the symptom, not the problem.
Correct. Yeah, a doctor would know that. Oh, we're excited.
That's awesome. No, I actually printed a bunch of stuff about it. I was like, oh, this I looked at.
He's a very engaging, Dr. Green, very funny guy. The whole team came out of it, just like, had a really good 2 days of learning.
I'm trying to remember, it's trauma informed too. It's all of that. Like, it sounds really good.
Chris, if I were to ask Bill this question, I think we'd turn it over to you. How dependent is the district on the internet? And if it were to go down for a whole day, what would that mean in terms of district offices and structural?
So we've actually had a couple of instances recently. I guess there was a power outage here over the weekend, and then on Monday when I came in, the internet was down, and pretty much everything grinds to a halt.
Yeah.
We're able to get the internet back up pretty quickly. I mean, it was up probably inside of 45 minutes that time, and then we lost it again for another, I think, maybe 15 minutes again, maybe this week. But in the 4 years that I've been here, those have been the only times that has happened. And both instances were a result of that power outage. So I was able to resolve it the second time to make sure that it won't happen again. But if the power is out for longer than our battery backups can last, then that's when the systems don't shut down properly and something might not come back up. So to answer your, long story short, to answer your question, we're extremely dependent upon the internet at this point, as I think most businesses are. The teachers were able to keep going. I mean, I don't know how long they could have kept going.
Right.
But I mean, they resorted back to the old school
I'm sure
But the offices,
some of them probably dusting off some dust and some of them.
Well, one of the things that we learned through COVID though, and working remotely, is we've continued now for certain essential functions, we have VPNs. So, you know, if we knew there was gonna be a prolonged outage, Debbie Welch, Deb Gurley, myself, that
Yeah.
the vital functions that we rely on these systems through BOCES, we could just relocate and access those through VPN. I mean, I could, and honestly, if it was a day in the summer where Chris said, we're not gonna have internet all day, I would go home.
Yeah.
And I could, you know,
But if
through
you
VPN,
had
could
to access the
access
internet.
the, the essential functions through the financial software that we use to do payroll, to do HR.
Okay.
that kind of stuff. So-
Because that's kind of how I was looking at the question. I'm looking at the business that has to happen and then the instruction.
yeah, so the business that has to happen, there are redundancies. So like Matt said, he could move somewhere else. All that stuff is housed off-site. And, you know, instruction, I'm sure that our teachers could last a day or two, maybe
Three works,
probably
right?
3. You know, but I mean, technology's enhanced our instruction in a lot of great ways too.
Yeah, no, I'm not disputing that.
Yeah, so we're pretty dependent upon
If it makes me feel better, in 20 years, that was the longest the power's ever been out in the building.
You know, knock on
Was it
wood,
20 years? There was the one summer where the power went out in all of the Northeast.
you guys have very reliable power
Everybody
here.
thought that Hamilton didn't lose it then.
No, we did.
Did you?
Yeah.
All right, 17 and a half years.
Yeah.
Very reliable. I mean, like I said, I've been here, 4.5 years now, and that's the first time
It's unusual for
that's
the village
happened.
to lose power.
When I was a teacher in Morrisville, I swear we lose power once a month,
Mhm.
at least. Sometimes we have to go home because there's no lights, there's no water.
Right.
But yeah, so we've been pretty lucky so far. And I've got a good, I work really well. I know who to contact at BOCES to work with the
I don't
problem
have
with
to deal
me
with Spectrum.
in order to look. No, that's not ever the issue. I know it, thank goodness,
You
yeah.
could be on hold for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
All right,
They'd ask me
well-
if I wanted to buy anything else, probably.
Bundle.
Maybe your authorized cell phones. We should look into that.
When you have to wait for them to shut up.
That's right.
Chris, I just want to make a comment for you, like, thank you for looking over the software. Like, I think that was really crucial. I'm really excited about Parent Square and checking that out. So-
Yeah,
Excited
I'm
about
gonna
Parents
be,
Square, too. I wrote
Yeah.
that down too.
I'm gonna be
Very
giving you
excited.
guys a presentation on Parent Square pretty soon. I think, I've seen a lot of software come and go, and some of them have been hits and misses. I'm pretty psyched about this one. I think it's gonna be a real game changer. And it's encouraging to me that a lot of other schools feel the same way. So just as a for instance, when I signed up for my administrator's account with Parent Square, it immediately asked me if my kids were my kids. Because Chittenango is getting Parent Square as well. So
Wow.
in the same window, I can look at communications from them, manage Hamilton. So, and I've heard those stories all over the place because everybody's sort of jumping on board with it.
I Googled Parent Square, and it's Parent Square this school district, Parent Square this school district, Parent Square this school district.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, there's a lot of people using Parent Square.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, we're really small here, obviously, not letting you guys know anything you don't already know. So, we're always looking for efficiencies. It's just me and Morgan. So this really, in a great way, consolidates our communication.
Well, I think from a parent perspective too, I'll be at games and be like, oh, well, I checked on this software, and they're like, what is that? And it's like, oh, you gotta go to this. So I think it's gonna be nice to say, this is where you go.
This is
with
it.
information.
Is this gonna solve our district calendar issue?
People still have to enter in the days.
Okay, thank
What
you.
about from a
Sore subject, sorry.
budget standpoint?
Hey, we have
Is there
it
a
out
large
of,
cost
I'm
for
not.
it?
So the great thing about it is, this one product eliminates like 3 other things for us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Streamlines it.
It makes
your report said
robocalls,
it
text
was-
messages,
BOCES.
and BOCES aids it. So I'm able to take some other things off of the docket and replace them with this.
Answer my question.
And it's Posey's evening.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
Okay.
And then the only other thing I had on my list was graduation, outside, on the field, big stage, kids on a stage.
We're
trying to make that happen, yep.
Okay. Have a little sit down with Mrs. Lehman on Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
Socially, of course, but no, but got this speaker, so.
She is something. The paper that you had with the senior trip, that was to me like 30 seconds after they voted. So she had different scenarios that she presented to the students. So she had to have each one of those written up for board approval in order to get that to me so quickly that day. So she's amazing. She's amazing.
So, awesome. Fingers and toes crossed.
Yeah.
And then the rain date is Saturday morning, right?
Yes.
Okay. Superintendent update.
Do you have anything?
No, the only thing
I did skip you.
just a brief update, and really I want to serve as an update, but also to commend our staff here. As you know, we had a unfortunate incident Friday morning with a pipe that broke in our elementary library. And really, we ended up getting through that pretty well unscathed in the grand scheme of things, with how severe it could have been based on timing. Still appears to be a fluky thing without real certainty of why it happened. But our Randy and his crew, and actually Don Hathaway, who's our construction manager from Construction Associates, he was tremendous. He jumped right in and was soaking wet and whatnot. So, but really, it was we had insurance adjusters here today, and they were really, they couldn't say enough how fortunate we were that we escaped what could have been some real serious damage. So it's a testament to the quick response. Obviously appreciate those affected by it, their patience as we get things going.
So how many classroom spaces were affected?
Well, the elementary library.
Right.
And then the one classroom space that is directly underneath it on the terrace level. Now, ironically, it was not being used by HCS, it was being used by CNS. So because of our construction, the room all year had been used as our therapy room, if you will. Our OT was stationed there. But because of the shifting, because of the building project, it was the room that was being used by CNS for their after-school program. So it was, very unfortunate for them. But Sarah, who was next door from CNS, was very understanding. Has been great through the process. So no HCS classroom, so to speak.
Wow, that's amazing.
So,
And no book damage?
very minimal. There were two shelves that were sort of facing where the water was coming out that were likely damaged. But no, no total losses. We had a recovery company here by 11 o'clock Friday, begin remediation, and it was clean water, which was a good thing.
Yes.
They came back, they were here today, and everything was dry, but we are going to use them to clean things up a little bit before we complete our requests for services from them. So we'll be good. I mean, by the end of the week, we'll be more than what happened. So we're fortunate.
Randy and Don did an unbelievable job to get that mitigated as quickly as possible. There was a lot of water. I heard a lot.
And really, the fact that it happened when it did, and the temperatures that we had, and that it wasn't over a weekend in the winter, and we were fortunate.
24-hour difference could have made a big difference.
Yeah.
But that is also why we do building checks. That's why we do daily building checks over the weekend. But it happened sometime between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. So there's that 8-hour stretch. But if we did a building check at 8 a.m. on a Saturday, and it happened at 9 a.m. on a Saturday, and it could have been a 28-hour span until the next day on Sunday when the building was checked. So we were fortunate.
Yeah, I would like to start my report with a wonderful recognition we had this morning from the School Boards Association. So Patrick Longo, who is a member relations manager from the school boards, sent me a letter a couple weeks ago in recognition of our second grade and our horticulture students. And I just want to read the letter. Dear Superintendent Dowsland, there are many examples of good deeds, acts of kindness, social emotional support, charity, self-directed initiatives, and leadership that can be found every day in public schools across New York State. The New York State School Boards Association initiated 2 programs, Applause for the Cause and Culture of Caring, to recognize and celebrate these goodwill acts that positively impact your district and community culture. We believe that your students' fundraising for hygiene kits for area rescue missions is worthy of recognition through our Applause for the Cause program, and we wish to pay tribute to those who made it possible. So they presented this plaque to our second graders and Johanna and her horticulture students this morning, and it says, Applause for the Cause. This NISBA recognition is presented to Hamilton Central School District for their second grade and high school horticulture students' role in creating and selling ornaments to raise money for hygiene kits for area rescue missions. Your goodwill act and positive contribution to your community is to be commended and celebrated. And then Patrick went on to say, please extend our congratulations to your Board of Education, staff, and students for their role in creating a positive district culture others may admire and emulate. So that's a statewide recognition, so it's so nice if you want to pass that across. They were hoping to present this at a board meeting, and then scheduling conflicts.
Where will that be put?
We'll put that in the
Showcase?
Showcase, yeah. Yep.
Awesome.
Great. How did they find out about it? Was there like a nomination or?
So NISBA does what's called Eclipse. So they have a program that scans all media outlets across New York State. And there was an article that was in the Utica OD, I believe, or the Mid-York.
Okay.
And they tagged it. So the Eclipse team pulled that and saw it and said, this fits into our requirements. So we're going to recognize your district.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, because a lot of the Eclipse, a lot of the media attention obviously has been negative.
Right.
Concerning schools and school boards. And
Right.
this was one, it hit the radar and they decided it was worthy of recognition. So
Oh.
it's really neat.
Wow.
Yeah,
They were supposed to come to the last board meeting,
they were.
but then because of the snow day, the weather, and they're from Albany, we told them that they could not come. And then they were gonna be here tonight, but the timing was better to come during the day.
Yeah.
For the kids.
Yeah. it's
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
the kids got to see it. And
Yeah, and we have pictures, there's
good.
took
That's
pictures.
way
and-
That's way more important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll put it on the website and, yeah, it was neat. The kids were really excited.
If
Oh, good.
there was no concert tonight, we might have been able to pull off being here tonight, but
Yeah.
it just worked out well.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'd rather the kids
I'd
get
rather
back.
the kids
Yeah,
be there.
yeah. It would have been nice to be able to do it at the board meeting, but. The second thing I would like to share with you is an update on our capital project. So, as you've seen coming into the building and being around the
He
building,
doesn't get one.
we are making progress. However, the COVID supply chain issues are starting to hit us. So if you look at the status report to the right, you'll see yellow, red, and green.
It's not good.
Green is on track.
Yellow,
Yeah, I got that.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, Travis, yep.
green.
And the key is green is on track and expected to remain. Yellow is off track but not expected to need escalation outside of the project team to resolve. And then red is off track and needs escalation to owner level to resolve. So if you look at our areas, so the locker room abatement and demolition is yellow, which means we are off track. And that's due to the lockers being, the new lockers that are going to be put in, the timeline, they're back ordered. So we're, I think, 17 to 19 weeks.
Well, I don't have that in front of me, but if it's specifically referring to abatement, they've had some COVID labor issues.
And then there's a note at the bottom that says locker room completion will be delayed due to the lead time required for fabrication and delay and demolition due to additional abatement material found, which Matt has just alluded to. So I don't know if our locker rooms will be ready for when we open school. Probably not. And we'll work with the phys ed teachers and students to kind of work around that. And then the 4th and 5th grade music area classrooms is red. And that again is the flooring, the carpet in those classrooms is back ordered. That's delayed. So we have to, we have a project meeting tomorrow morning, so we're going to have to relook at how we relocate music to another area so they can get into that area and start that demolition. Because initially, our 4th and 5th grade teachers relocated. Once the rooms were completed, they were going to go back in, and then we're going to move music out. So that's not going to happen now. So our teachers that are relocated right now will stay in those rooms for the remainder of the school year. So we have to internally figure out where we're going to put music after the concerts. So then they can get into the music area and start that work, so we stay somewhat on schedule. So that's the reason that we're in red there. And then the classrooms are green, and everything is going to be done or is done, just waiting on the flooring. So we're moving along, except we're seeing the effects of supply chain.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have our next job meeting tomorrow, and
Unless you
unfortunately, every 2 weeks when we have a job meeting, there seems to be another item that has emerged as being a problem with manufacturing or delivery. So, you know, we're not as optimistic as maybe we were.
Will we be able to get back in the classrooms in September even if
No question, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the only issue is
Yeah.
the shifting of classrooms. So, and, you know, one of the things they said was, well, they're waiting on the flooring and lighting, everything else is done. The teachers could go back into their classrooms, which we don't want to do, we would rather.
Right.
So, yeah, they're really, the only
If we
change
need
is
to-
they're not going to get back into their classrooms.
If we need to in
completely.
the fall, even with no carpet or whatever, or the floor.
No, it is not going to take that long.
Okay.
No. Now, lockers, maybe. The classroom and the music suites,
Won't be well.
not going to be an issue.
Would the locker rooms possibly be to the point where, like, the bathrooms be done, the students could use them, there'd just be no lockers, or would it be nobody's allowed in there because it's tore up?
We could be at that point where everything is done except for lockers, but I would prefer we stay out because there is going to be, you know, it's going to be open areas to put those lockers in. And I wouldn't want kids in there for safety reasons.
I got you.
It's better to just stay out until
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
completed.
I prefer you.
Yeah,
than
yeah.
And they can't order the lockers until they're done with demolition and they basically built out the
So
locker.
they know what,
Yeah.
And there's a,
isn't it all spelled out in their architect?
well, they've had issues with
Yeah, it's-
staffing, so the demo's a little behind. The lead time is growing on lockers, so it's just, it's
Yeah, it's
compounding.
moving.
So we anticipate more of that. to be
What
honest.
about the remaining doors from phase one?
No change.
Still waiting.
Okay.
And then just two other things from an advocacy standpoint. The APPR waiver has been granted, signed by the governor. So APPR regulations are waived. We'll continue to do our observations internally and fulfill our end, but nothing will be uploaded to the state for performance ratings through APPR. And that's the third year in a row for that. And then the last thing, there's now flexibility in the Regents exam requirements. So the Board of Regents met on Monday and Tuesday of this week, and they've approved flexibility. So students who have passed a course leading to a Regents exam and have scored between a 50 and 64 will be able to file a special appeal for exams taken during the June 22 and August 22, January 23, June 23, and August 23 exam administration periods. So if they score between a 50 and 64, they can appeal that, and we would grant the diploma, whatever diploma track they're on, based on that appeal. They have to
They
pass the
also pass
course.
the class.
They have to pass the class. Yeah. So it allows flexibility, which is good. It's a good thing. So I assume Mark will be sharing more information on that. There's a lot of information with it. He'll be working with Ms. Dawu on that, but they have the information, so they're aware of that. And that is it.
This,
Unless you have questions.
this DASNY, or what's the pronunciation of that acronym?
DASNY? Yep, yep.
That's really exciting.
That's very exciting.
So,
It's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
I guess my question to that is, A, thank you to everyone involved, that's tremendous. 2 pieces of equipment,
Mhm.
I'm guessing like plow trucks or tractors?
Actually, it's a toolcat, a Bobcat toolcat, if you're
Okay.
familiar with that. So it's a utility vehicle
Yeah.
that has a bunch of different attachments that's multifunctional that will serve us. And then we have a 104-inch
Wide area mower.
wide area mower that will be.
So I guess the question to that is, with a lot of pieces of equipment like that, the supply chain issues are the same. Do we expect any of that, or you can't order them until the grant is, how does it work?
So,
Or did I just open up a can of worms?
yeah, you did, but that's okay. This has been a grueling process. One of the problems that we ran into is, in order to apply for the grant, we had to get quotes. So when we obtained the quotes in November of 2020. We actually obtained the quotes for 3 pieces of equipment. By the time we received the email, which was a month ago, saying that approval was imminent, the quotes weren't good anymore. So rather than obtain new quotes and change course and start all over again, we basically eliminated one of the mowers. And then the new quotes for the other 2 were roughly what it was going to be for the 3 originally. But you're right, the company, the vendor cannot order them without a purchase order. And they're saying 5 to 6 months out. So we have submitted the purchase order, so we are in the hopper. It is a capital expenditure, so it's a reimbursable grant, but thankfully, because we have a big capital project going on, we're going through the capital fund, we'll get reimbursed as soon as we can. So hopefully that process in talking to other districts is quicker than the application process. So.
When, with something like that, when do you actually pay the supplier? When you purchase it, or once it comes in?
Once it comes in. So we've given them a purchase order, which is our commitment to the purchase.
Still exciting, but thank you.
It is, and the mower's done, and we still mow now with our big tractor that pulls on a game mower, which is not real efficient. So we're looking forward to it. And the toolcat will be very versatile. We have a club car utility vehicle now that's over 10 years old and not really reliable. So
Yeah,
we'll be in good shape.
great.
Steering team updates? Secondary?
I can talk about that, yeah. So I shared some of the data we received from the surveys. And it's one thing that I found kind of interesting about some of the questions would be the alignment between teachers, students, and parents. There seemed to be some good alignment there, so that tells me that we seem to be on the same page with some of our thinking. There was a little bit of differences between some of the teachers' confidence in the social emotional piece compared to parents and students, where parents and students felt that they were a little better off than teachers. But some of the issue with that was teachers were thinking about all of their students, not individuals, so it became a little bit difficult during that survey for them to answer some of those questions that were, strongly agree. And then the next steps we talked about would be, distilling some of that information and presenting out what are some, from that survey, what are some things that we feel need to be addressed or that we can start looking more deeply into and using that information to hopefully make some positive changes in the future. Talking about the survey.
Secondary, or the steering
Yeah, I
committee.
figured, yeah. So the survey, yeah. I'm sure Mark covered it.
Did you get good response though?
According to Sue Lehman, we had, I believe it was 70, from the parent side, 77 responses. She thought that was a good number statistically. We would always want more than that, obviously. And then from the students and faculty, that was pretty good numbers for responses
Good.
we received there.
And the students had to do it in homeroom. So
Yeah.
we got really good response.
Yeah.
But then there was also pretty good correlation between the parents and the students. So we kind of took that as a good sign that it's probably a good indicator of things being a good representation of the parents.
Elementary?
Yeah, I haven't been to a meeting. I don't think I've missed one since the last time we reported. I think it must be coming up.
Yeah, there's
But
one
it's not on
coming
my
up.
calendar. So that's what I was looking for. I
I want
don't,
to say it's the 26th, does that make sense?
that would make sense, given when the last two
Yeah.
were.
Yeah, Heather.
Heather asked me to speak at it, I just have to look at my calendar.
Yeah, I can't, I know I've missed the last two, but
Yeah, it's the 26th, 4 o'clock.
why is it not on my calendar?
Well, then we haven't missed anything for that. Yeah.
So did you said Heather wanted you to speak? Was there?
Yeah, she just wants to give an update on all things PPS, like SEL, special ed, kind of stuff.
So as part of the elementary steering report?
Yes.
We'll go, because
No,
I.
no, 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 she wants me to come to the
Oh,
next
that,
meeting
I get
on
it.
the 26th.
You got it, I missed it. Okay, I got it.
We're all looking like.
Go ahead, go. Go right ahead.
Not yet.
He was looking at his phone, to be fair, like he was gonna read something.
I was thinking I was in the quantum field and maybe I could access the future and come back and kind of give a report out.
We're in the multiverse? and-
Yes.
Okay, got it. Maybe that's why it wasn't on my calendar.
Alex, you're looking into the future way too much lately.
It's life in the multiverse, I'm telling you.
The Emerald Foundation has met. They're working on a couple of different projects related to seniors, related to some recognition that they'd like to give, working on trying to get their foundation out to more people, get more people on their mailing lists. Just telling them who they are and what they do. They will be here next month for their presentation. So I will miss that. I won't be here, but they will be here for their presentation next month. So I'll let Debbie know that. And knowledge sharing.
I can update on our presentation that we proposal was rejected, so. We're not presenting.
Oh,
E for effort though, my friend, E
Yeah,
for
it's,
effort.
yeah.
man.
I'll find someone to complain to.
Try again next year.
Nobody
Just do it
could
in
be
the
as good
parking
as
lot
us,
next door,
and
Corey.
so they were worried about
I'm
it,
scared.
right?
Seemed like such a good topic.
Well, I honestly, sometimes I feel like a lot of the people who get those slots are, there's a lot of like.
Connection.
Politics?
Well, it's like, it's like a law office, right? It's a service, it's somebody who's,
You say
But that's-
money thing.
I don't know. I'm not officially on this public meeting. I'm not saying that.
Well, we'll still enjoy convention.
We'll still go.
Convention.
Then we won't have to be stressed out
Exactly.
That's right.
We'll just enjoy the session.
with our wonderfully made goals that we did on our own.
Exactly.
There we
That
go.
everybody will be jealous of.
Yeah, that we're gonna brag about the whole time.
Participation, my computer died, so none, good.
Just your comment.
Awesome, my comment was, please enter comments if you have any, so, and the room is awfully quiet tonight, so we're good to go there. We do have executive session, there will be no voting afterwards, we will not come back live stream at the end of executive session. Thank everybody who participated and watched, thank you Debbie, because I know you're on there Debbie, so I just want to thank you for being over in the bus garage. The polls are open for 10 and a half more minutes, so get there, get to the bus garage and vote for the school budget. So, I need a motion to adjourn to executive session for the matters regarding employment history of particular individuals.
Who else second?
All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.